Something is unfolding inside the walls of the Boston Celtics organization, and it is not the kind of move you can see coming just by reading transaction headlines. On the 7th of July, Boston finalized a trade that sent defensive anchor Jrue Holiday to the Portland Trail Blazers in exchange for high-octane scorer Anfernee Simons. At first glance, it was a straight swap of skill sets, but the reality is far more layered. The deal instantly cleared roughly $40 million in luxury, tax pressure, and signaled the arrival of a new philosophy under owner Bill Chisholm, one that prioritizes adaptability and long-term dominance over short-term comfort. But here's where it gets truly intriguing. Multiple league insiders believe that Simons' presence in Boston could be part of a longer game. Jake Fisher, plugged deep into NBA trade chatter, revealed that Boston will remain open to discussions about moving Simons all the way until February's trade deadline. That means the Celtics might not see him solely as a solution on the court, but as one of the most strategically valuable trade pieces in the entire league. In the chessboard of roster building, Simons could be a queen that is moved not just to score, but to unlock an even more decisive checkmate later. Simons is only 26, yet he already brings the kind of offensive skill set that changes game. Plans he can score from anywhere, create his own shots, and stretch defenses to breaking points. In his last season with Portland, he averaged just under 20 points per game, along with nearly 5 assists, all while shooting over 38% from deep for his career. Those numbers are not just solid, they are dangerous when placed next to the kind of elite talent Boston already has. Still, the Celtics' identity is rooted in something unique, an ecosystem of versatile defenders who can guard multiple positions and force opponents into uncomfortable matchups. Simons, for all his offensive brilliance, is not built in that exact mold. That is why Boston's front office is keeping options open. They can integrate him into their system and see if the scoring punch outweighs the defensive trade-off, or they can use him as a powerful asset to acquire someone who fits their blueprint with surgical precision. The fact that they are not rushing to decide speaks volumes about the confidence they have in their ability to navigate the market. The team's guard rotation already includes Derek White and Peyton Pritchard, both of whom will be taking on heavier playmaking responsibilities, especially in stretches without Jason Tatum. Adding Simons to that mix creates a dynamic set of possibilities. Boston can overwhelm opponents with shooting, attack mismatches relentlessly, or pivot mid-series to an entirely different style. But they can also choose to cash in his trade value if the right opportunity surfaces, and that opportunity could come sooner than people think. Under the new collective bargaining agreement, the most dangerous penalty is not losing a star, but losing financial flexibility. Savings from the Holiday trade were not about trimming costs for ownership. They were about creating the ability to act when another team becomes desperate to move a key player. Chisholm has already shown he is willing to wait for the right deal, even if it means keeping fans guessing. There is also a ripple effect that goes beyond the immediate roster. Other general managers now know Boston has an asset in Simons that could fit almost any offensive system, which means phone lines will stay open and conversations will keep flowing. Every week between now and February, the Celtics will be in position to turn those conversations into leverage, whether to improve now or to store up capital for a bigger strike in the offseason. This is why the SCS trade might not be the end of a story, but the opening chapter of something much larger. The Celtics are not just preparing for the next playoff run, they are positioning themselves to dominate the next several years without being trapped by contracts or forced into reactive moves. If Simons stays and thrives, Boston adds a new weapon to its arsenal. If he is moved, it will be for something even more impactful. Either way, the team is operating with a level of control that few franchises can match. In the end, the real question is not whether Simons will still be here in April. The question is what the Celtics will have turned him into by the time the dust settles. And that is the kind of uncertainty that should excite every Boston fan, because it means the front office is thinking bigger than just the season ahead. They are thinking about building a dynasty in a league where only the smartest and most patient survive. The noise surrounding the Boston Celtics this summer has been deafening. But in all the speculation about starting lineups and positional battles, many have missed the question that could quietly shape the entire identity of the 2025-26 season. Everyone wants to know who will step onto the parquet first when the anthem ends. But the real story might be about who earns the trust to finish the battles that matter most. Will Anfernee Simons be the man the Celtics hand the ball to in crunch time, or will Peyton Pritchard's relentless energy and floor vision win him that role? And where does Sam Hauser fit into this high-stakes puzzle? A shooter whose presence can tilt the geometry of the court in an instant. These debates have lit up Boston sports radio, fan forums, and even quiet conversations among scouts. It is not just about naming a starting five. A starter carries the symbolic weight of being one of the 5 pillars a team leans on from the jump. But in today's NBA, rotations are chess games within chess games. The opening lineup sets the tone, but the coaching staff must weave substitutions like threads in a larger tapestry, balancing matchups, pacing, and the psychological rhythm of the game. Sometimes a player is better unleashed against tired legs, creating mismatches no starting assignment could offer. That is where the real intrigue lies. Simons could begin games with a green light and electrify the first quarter, yet find himself watching from the sideline as Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown orchestrate closing possessions. Conversely, Hauser might be kept in reserve early, his shooting held back as a weapon to break open late-game defenses. His 6'8" frame and quick release could prove decisive when the Celtics are locked in a one-possession struggle with under 2 minutes to play. The truth is, opening night's starting 5 will make headlines. But the group that walks off the floor when the final buzzer sounds will tell us more about who truly commands the trust of Joe Mazzulla and his staff. In April, May, and June, when possessions slow down and the pressure is suffocating, that is when these early decisions will echo the loudest. And yet, in the middle of these strategic battles, an entirely different controversy has emerged. One that lives in the virtual world but still stirs real emotions among players and fans. The first ratings from NBA 2K6 have trickled out, and while Sam Hauser was justly recognized as one of the game's top 10 three-point shooters with an 80 rating from deep, Jaylen Brown was left off the list of elite mid-range assassins. For a player who has made a career out of silencing critics with steady improvement, the snub feels less like a data-driven decision and more like a misunderstanding of his impact. Brown's numbers last season from mid-range may not have been his career peak, connecting on 40% of 2.5 attempts per game. But the context matters. This came after a year where he hit over 43% on nearly the same volume. And during a season where defenses threw constant traps and length at him to disrupt his rhythm, his ability to hit those shots in big moments cannot be fully captured by averages alone. Compare that to the surprise inclusion of Miles McBride of the New York Knicks. Yes, McBride connected on an impressive 49.4% from mid-range last year, but he attempted just 1.4 shots from that area per game. In the season before that, his attempts were under 1 per game. That is a far cry from the nightly defensive attention and shot creation. Burden carried by Brown. And McBride is not the only questionable case. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope hit over 52% from mid-range on the same number of attempts as McBride and did not make the cut. Desmond Bane, one of the most mechanically sound shooters in the league, posted nearly 50% on higher volume than McBride and still found himself excluded. So why does this matter to the Celtics? Because perception feeds narrative, and narrative seeps into how players are discussed, marketed, and even defended on the court. A player overlooked in the virtual rankings can be overlooked in all-star voting, in media conversations, and in the subtle ways opponents prepare for him. Brown has already shown he uses slights as fuel, and this one could add another layer of motivation to a season where Boston will be chasing not just wins, but history. The Celtics know that the margins between victory and defeat in June can be a single possession, a single defensive rotation, a single mid-range jumper can be the difference between a parade through Causeway Street and an offseason of regret. Whether the debate is about who starts, who finishes, or who gets the recognition they deserve, the through line is the same. Every decision, every rotation, every moment of belief or doubt will matter. That is why the real question for 2025-26 is not just about names on a lineup card. It is about trust, timing, and the willingness to put the right 5 on the floor. When the season is on the line, that is the kind of story that will not just define this year, but could echo in Boston's basketball history for years to come. The fate of Al Horford has become one of the most captivating mysteries of the basketball offseason, and it is unfolding in slow motion. At 38 years old, with nearly 2 full decades of battles behind him, he is standing at a crossroads, where every step forward could either add another glittering chapter to his legacy or close the story entirely. On one side, there is the possibility of stepping into one of the most experienced and dangerous locker rooms the league has ever seen in San Francisco, has the power to choose the moment of his exit. The league is waiting, but Horford is in no rush to answer. The connection between It has become a talking point among executives and analysts who understand exactly what his presence could mean. Yet the papers remain unsigned. The reason is a contract stalemate with restricted free agent Jonathan Kuminga, a young forward, whose situation has put the Warriors in an off-season freeze. This has left Horford in an unusual position for a player of his stature, waiting in the shadows, as if the league's next major shift depends entirely on someone else's signature. Horford's patience here is telling. It suggests that he is not merely searching for the next paycheck or the fastest deal. He is weighing the chance to join a roster that could etch its name in history one more time. Imagine the interior defense and passing vision he could bring to a team built around Stephen Curry's shooting gravity, Jimmy Butler's relentless edge, and Draymond Green's defensive orchestration. This is not about minutes played in November. This is about the moments in May and June when every possession matters, and the margin for error disappears. But then there is the other path, the one that few want to speak aloud but everyone knows is real. Retirement is not an empty threat in Horford's case. His career has been marked not just by achievement, but by control. He has rarely allowed circumstances to dictate his decisions. If he chose to step away now, he would do so without the shadow of decline hanging over him. He would walk away as the same player who just months ago was contributing meaningful minutes deep into the playoffs. How many players in their late 30s can say that? Golden State knows that the value Horford offers is measured in more than points and rebounds. He is a cultural force, a player who can guide a locker room through the turbulence of a long season, while still making the kind of on-court impact that changes the shape of games. They also know that their championship window is not eternal. Every year that passes puts more miles on Curry and Green. Butler is arriving with his own urgency to win now. The right veteran addition could make the difference between a respectable playoff run and a parade through the streets of San Francisco. Meanwhile, in Boston, the chapter may already be closing. The Celtics front office appears to be preparing for a season without their longtime anchor in the paint. This is not about parting ways with a role player. It is about the absence of a leader who has been the calm in the storm for years. With Jason Tatum managing a significant Achilles injury, the idea of losing Horford to a direct contender adds an element of tension that will follow Boston all season long. Yet there is no bitterness here, only the quiet understanding that sometimes paths diverge even when the bond remains. If Horford takes the Golden State offer once the Kuminga situation is resolved, he will walk into a high-stakes environment where every game could be part of a final masterpiece. The thought of him lifting the Larry O'Brien trophy alongside Curry and Butler in what could be his last year is the kind of storyline that would be remembered for decades. If he retires, the ending will be equally powerful, not because of what he left unfinished, but because he chose the moment to close the curtain. Some decisions in sports happen fast, a headline in the morning, forgotten by evening. This is not one of those. The decision Horford makes will ripple across the league from Boston to San Francisco and far beyond. It will alter the paths of franchises, will shape the dreams of fan bases, and it will decide whether one of the most respected veterans of his generation adds one final brilliant act to his career, or chooses to leave the stage while the applause still echoes. The waiting is not just suspense, it is history in progress. Al Horford's next step is becoming one of the most intriguing, unanswered questions of the entire NBA offseason. For months, the dominant narrative painted a simple picture, one in which the veteran big man would quietly transition from Boston, Green to the Golden State, blue and gold, slotting himself next to Stephen Curry for one last title chase. But now, behind closed doors, the conversation has shifted. What once seemed like an inevitable move may not happen at all, and the alternative is not a return to the Celtics. But something even more surprising, Brad Stevens himself acknowledged in July that a reunion next season is unlikely. Yet his choice of words was careful, almost calculated. He did not shut the door, he did not speak in absolutes. And that alone should make observers wonder whether Horford's basketball story is as close to finished as some are assuming. Stevens described Horford in a way that suggested admiration and respect, but also caution, as if both the player and the organization are weighing more variables than anyone on the outside realizes. The twist is that Golden State, the team many expected to land Horford, may not be the lock people assumed. Sources close to the situation, including ESPN's Anthony Slater, have confirmed that retirement is still a real possibility for the five-time All-Star. That single detail flips the script entirely. A man who has spent nearly 2 decades mastering the balance between physical preparation and mental sharpness is not the type to make a decision on impulse. If Horford is hesitating, there is a reason, and that reason could change the landscape. For more than one franchise, Golden State's current roster puzzle is a big part of the holdup. The unresolved status of Jonathan Kuminga is tying their hands. Until his future is settled, the Warriors cannot fully execute their plan, and Horford's potential contract is just one of the pieces affected. It is entirely possible that Horford already has a handshake understanding with the Warriors, yet he is forced to wait until the front office can clear the path. That wait could stretch just long enough for other opportunities to appear, including ones that have not been made public yet. At 39 years old, Horford is not chasing long-term deals or statistical milestones. He is looking for a fit, a situation where his unique combination of skills, experience, and leadership can tip the scales in the highest-stakes games. In Golden State, he would have the chance to form a defensive core with Draymond Green that could frustrate the most sophisticated offenses. On offense, he would give Curry something he has never truly had in his prime years, a center who can space the floor, hit the three at a reliable clip, and execute pick-and-pop actions while still being a threat inside. That single addition could reshape the Warriors' half-court sets, making them less predictable and more dangerous. But that is only one dimension of his potential impact. Horford's presence could accelerate the development of Golden State's younger frontcourt players, such as Quinton Post, by giving them daily exposure to one of the league's most disciplined professionals. His understanding of spacing, timing, and positioning could become a living blueprint for players still learning the complexities of NBA-level basketball. Still, the retirement factor looms. If Horford were to step away now, it would not be because he cannot play. His numbers last season, 9 points over 6 rebounds, nearly 1 block per game, and more than 36% from deep on significant attempts show he remains productive. It would be because he sees the rare opportunity to exit on his own terms at a moment when his value is still clear and his body has not forced the decision. Very few players get to write their final chapter that way, and Horford knows it. For Celtics fans, the hope lies in the fact that Horford has not made a final decision, and that the NBA's shifting market can create sudden openings. A delayed signing with Golden State could be just enough for Boston to re-engage if the circumstances align, particularly if frontcourt depth becomes a late-of-season concern. Horford's connection to Boston is deeper than contracts and stat sheets, and that bond has a way of influencing choices when the margins are razor-thin. The truth is, the longer this decision takes, the more unpredictable it becomes. Horford is in a position where every option carries weight, chasing a title and a new uniform, ending a career with a deliberate final bow, or answering one more call from the city where his legacy has already been cemented. That is why this story is not just about whether he signs with the Warriors or retires. It is about the possibility that something entirely unexpected is about to happen, and those who think they already know the ending might be underestimating how carefully Horford plays his moves.